NBL Now on a Tuesday morning. Thanks for being with us as we look through the week ahead to round 9 and the last round before a FIBA window, which is always a little bit of a chance to reset things for all of our teams. Joel Peterson here, joined by the Australian Basketball Hall of Famer, the 5-time All-Star Lanard Copeland. Copes, good to have you on the show.
Joel, it is great to be here, my friend. You're looking nice and fresh like you just got out of bed.
Something like that, not too long ago, that's for sure. Hey, let's jump in. The water cooler chat has been all about Chris Goulding. It sort of seems wrong not to start there, really. I had work colleagues ask me about it yesterday, like, you know, how good was that kind of thing. What was your view of what went down and how good it was?
Well, simply put into words, he was in his zone. He was in his zone, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. As a player, you have those days, not as good as him, but you have those days where you can't miss. And they needed that kick. They needed every point that he made because Perth were playing good basketball. But they, you know what startles me is when these teams try to put a rookie or someone on Chris Goulding who's never seen him before. When you bring an American over here just because he's a good defender, Chris Goulding is so good at getting open and coming off screens and shooting from so far out that you can't, it's hard to guard him. And that game was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it kept going and going and going. I was expecting for Perth to perhaps play a box and one or double him or something, but he just got a hold of him, man, and there was nothing they could do.
He's so good in those situations that are making the most of it. His teammates make the most of it too. Ruck noted yesterday on Moments That Mattered, Matthew Dellavedova and Shea Lee had 19 assists. A lot of those were to Goulding in that stretch, so they did a really good job to keep finding him.
Absolutely. And look, they know he's their leader. When he's going, the crowd's going, the bench is going, and Perth were in shock. They couldn't believe it. And some of the players even said after the game, there's nothing we could do. You know, he got himself on fire. And when he starts that little walk down the court, that little arrogant walk, you know it's on, man. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, the strut, when the strut comes out, you know it's trouble. Did you ever have any nights like that? You had some big nights in there.
Well, I had a couple. But I had one in the grand final up in Perth, which was amazing. And you don't forget those days, man, when everything you throw up, sometimes you can kick the ball and still you think it's going in. But that's just a matter of putting the work in, you know, off season and training hard every day and getting up those 500 shots like Daisy used to do every single day before and after practice.
Hey, we called the Tassie game on Saturday night. They had a good win over New Zealand, 19 points it was in the end, 83-64. So they scored 82 and 83 across the course of the weekend. Do you feel like they're back on track a bit?
I think they are. I think it was going to take a game like that. And when you beat the number one team, it gives you all kinds of confidence. And now whoever's coming to Tassie next, I feel for him. Because, yes, Doyle didn't play his best game, but other guys stood up. Dean, Crawford was okay. Sword coming off the bench was magnificent. And Drimmick, he got going. He's back to his old self for knocking people down and getting into little scrimmages or whatever. So I just think that they're going to be okay. And I always said that Roth is a very smart coach. And yes, they dug themselves a big hole, but I think they'll be okay, man. I really think they'll make the top 6.
They've got Magnay on the way back. They get Brisbane at home this weekend. If they can string 2 in a row together, how big heading into the FIBA break do you think that would be for them?
It's tremendous, man, because, look, if you can get 2 games and give yourself a break and get all the injuries, get yourself healthy where there's no injuries and everybody's ready to go, you walk back into the league with a new look, a new attitude. The confidence is sky high. I say again, you got to get Milton Doyle going some kind of way. And if he gets going, Magnay comes back, Crawford gets going, it's the same team.
Yeah, okay. So Perth's another team in an interesting spot. They've got Southeast Melbourne this weekend. If Perth get to 500 at the break, is that a win for them, given that they haven't had Bryce Cotton for a little while now?
That is a win. But again, and because anytime you lose a Bryce Cotton, what do you think? We're in trouble. Because the offense is run through Bryce. Every play is run through Bryce. And if Bryce is doing his thing, the team's doing quite well. Now, Bryce hadn't been there, and John really's done a good job in getting other guys involved. Doolittle, magnificent. He's been great all year. Pender, Hensel, those guys have stepped up in the absence of Cotton and done the right thing. Now, here's my question. When Cotton comes back, do they continue to play like they've been playing, or do they go back to getting Cotton the ball every time? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know when Cotton comes back, they'll be a much better team.
Yeah, so could it make them a better team around him, having had to play without him for a little while?
Absolutely, it does, because now other guys gain confidence. You got guys now, Hensel, who's coming off who's starting now and shooting the ball well. Doolittle, again, like I said, look, don't underestimate him offensively or defensively. He's very good. But now Cotton is not a selfish player. Cotton is one of those guys that will get guys the ball when they need them. And now if everyone's playing well, then Perth's a much different team.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that we've seen him before the break. He was still pretty cagey on NBL Now last Wednesday. Perth have been sort of not giving a lot away in this space. So
do they ever give anything away? Do they ever?
It's a good point. That's a good point, Coach. They don't give a lot away at the best of times, the Perth Wildcats. That is for sure. We'll see whether we see Bryce Cotton before the break or he's in cotton wool, so to speak, through that break. The Sydney Kings have won a couple in a row now, but Brian Goorjian had some pretty stinging comments in the aftermath of their game on Friday night. Said he wasn't happy with their effort. It seems as though he's settled on a shorter rotation, at least for now. They've had a lot of question marks around that throughout the course of the season. Derek Rucker said on Moments That Mattered that it seems as though there's a little bit more upside still left with them. Yep. Are they a team that could use this FIBA window to try and sort some of that out?
I think, honestly, if I'm Brian Goorjian, and I can't tell him what to do, but during the break, I'm sitting down with every player and telling them, look, you have a role to play here. You don't, not necessarily on the floor. There might be games when you don't play. I just need you to cheer guys that are on the floor on. You know what I mean? Because I still don't think that Cam Oliver-Brian Goorjian relationship is great. Yes, he came in and played great in the first half, but then the second half, you see nothing. And you see his body language isn't great because he feels like he can do more for the team. Brian feels like I got all these choices to pick from. It's like an apple tree. I got all these apples to choose. I can pick whichever one I want. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think Brian needs to sit down with every player and give them their role, what he expects from them. And he's probably already done that. But just do it again so these guys know, well, if I don't play tonight, I'm still a part of this team, and we're going to go try to win the championship.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation that they find themselves in, and they have Illawarra before the break, so if they get there with another win, they could be in a very, very pretty position. Our producer, Rowan Brown, who's a very good man, he posed the question to us earlier today, is Adelaide the most entertaining team we've seen in a few years in the competition? Before we get into our next little bit here, do you agree with that statement?
I would say right now they're very exciting to watch. Because you got guys like DJ who's shooting the ball from right across the half-court line. You got Trez, who every play gets the crowd involved. He's yelling in the stands, and they're responding. You got KD who's coming down, making nice passes. He can score with anybody. They got a very good roster. And the fans, I played there. My last 2 years were there. The fans are so knowledgeable. I think the last game they played was sold out the week 4 or 5 days before the game even started. So they're hungry for wins. They want to win, but they're knowledgeable. And the crowd can pick whenever they get down. That crowd starts screaming and clapping. It gets them going. It reminds me of the old Tiger days back in the 90s. Whenever we got down, we had a group of guys called the hoodlums, and they would stir the crowd up, and it would help us. It really would. It really would.
They haven't lost there in almost a year at the moment. So that leads me into this. I'm keen to do a ranking of the most watchable teams. A lot of outlets in the US do like their League Pass rankings. Yep. If you had League Pass, you got 30 teams to pick from. Which ones are you going to every single night if, you're just sitting on the couch and you're flicking through looking for something? So this isn't about the best teams. It's not a slight on anyone who doesn't feature in the list. And we might pick teams that for different reasons. So it could be any reason. It could be that you like their mascot. It could be that you like the uniforms. I don't really care what it could be that they've got good things at the canteen. Whatever it is, I want your top 3 watchable teams. We'll start at number 3 and we'll work up to number 1. Who comes in at number 3 for you?
Number 3 is probably the Perth Wildcats because of the size of their crowd. And it's intimidating when you walk into that stadium and you look up and you see all blue. And then you go back in the room and you come back out and you see all red. You just don't know where to go. I mean, it's so big and the crowd gets going and it can take away your confidence. Miss a shot and they're booing 14,000 screaming fans. So Perth would be number 3 for me, I think.
Okay, I've got Melbourne United at number 3 on my list.
Melbourne United number 3.
That's because you can't leave a team that has Chris Goulding out of this list
right.
After what he did the other night. So, because otherwise you don't have a lot of guys who are really appointment viewing, like Jack White, great player, Shaylee, great player, Ian Clark, great player. All these guys are really, really good to watch, but are they making, like the actual visceral reaction that you have? They don't necessarily have those kind of guys. So, but they have one of them. They have maybe the best one in the league.
That's
so
right.
They come in at number 3 for me. What about number 2?
Okay, number 2, I'm changing mine because you said Melbourne United. I'm going with Tassie because of the size of their crowd. Again, it's small, but as you know, and I know, it's the loudest stadium in the NBL. And I said that to someone else, and they go, yeah, of course it's loud because it's really small, but you can barely hear yourself talk down there. And if you go down there and you get behind, and that crowd gets behind you, it's hard to win in Tassie, and that's why they're so good at home.
I should clarify the rules of engagement. I'm okay that we have the same teams in this too. Yeah, so if I take a team, you'll take them as well. Sydney Kings number 2 for me. Great stadium, great atmosphere. They've got 2 absolute match winners. Xavier Cooks can throw down a poster anytime you like. But really, they have the best uniforms in the league. The purple, the pinstripes, just chef's kiss. So Sydney Kings come in at number 2.
All right, my number 1 is going to be Adelaide, just because of the reasons I gave. They got a great team. They put a great roster together. Montrez gets that crowd going. He dunks or rebounds. He's flying all over the floor. His hair's everywhere. DJ's coming down, knocking down threes. He's excited. KD, they got some real talent down there, and the crowd is always behind them. Win or lose, Joe, that place is always going to be sold out or close to sold out.
Yep, I can't disagree with you. And they are a fascination in the sense that I want to know what the result of every game you swing on and you go, oh, gee, I wonder how Montrez is going tonight, or I wonder how DJ's going tonight, or I wonder how Davis is going tonight. They've got 3 guys that can absolutely light it up at any time and often light it up at the same time. I mean, Montrez and DJ had big games yesterday. Davis has 19 and 10. He is absolutely lightning in a bottle. So they are a fantastic team to watch. Apologies to the Illawarra Hawks, so I think are really, really good value as well. And I mean, we're blessed. We've got so many interesting teams. Tassie are great, Perth are great, Illawarra are great. Every team's got something to like about their mix and their matchup. But it's and everyone's rankings in that space would be subjective. But it feels like Adelaide have kind of got the title belt as it stands on that ranking.
Absolutely, and what a great game they played yesterday. I mean, that crowd was humming. I'm usually down there. I didn't go yesterday, but I watched it on television. It was a great game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before we let you go, a couple of little whispers in my ear, some little birdies telling me that there might be a bit of a change on the overtime side of things, and that we might be seeing you a little bit more around these parts. What can you tell me about that?
Well, I just decided overtime is a great show, and I love the guys. We had great chemistry, but I just think this probably wasn't the best for me at this stage with timing and the day and everything that was going on. So I pulled out of that, and I'm hoping to do some more stuff with you guys here. So hopefully you'll see me a lot more, on air.
Well, you're a busy man, and we're very lucky to have you, and we hope to be hearing and seeing you a little bit more in the next little while over time. And the boys will be back, of course, every Tuesday. You can get it on the NBL app as well. Copes, great to have you on the show. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Joel, you're a good man. Thanks, brother.
Good on you, Copes. Thanks for your company as well. NBL app, nbl.com.au for all the news and NBL Now throughout the week.